I was raised here in Plaquemines Parish. My father was a commercial fisherman, and my first job was cooking oysters.
Smell of death is in the air, and the sound of running chainsaws. Spray paint on the porch, mark the dead. An old Dick flew in from D.C. for a photo opportunity. Landed right here at the gates of hell. Had to listen to a man down in Gulfport, Mississippi. Lost every goddamn thing he ever had. Mr. Cheney had a smile for the folks home watching TV. No antidote for all them things gone bad. When you look back on the moment and remember days gone by, maybe next time all the old and sick and poor won't have to die. Yeah, well, there's still bodies floating, but nobody wants to blame for the dead in Bay St. Louis out to Old Lake Pontchartrain.
And your federal government telling you you get no help from us.
Katrina. That's just even saying the name's a mouthful, right? Katrina came through here, and it wasn't like any other storm that we had ever dealt with. Like, the reason I say that is because normally a storm comes through, you come home, you might have a limb through your roof, you might not have a roof, 3-4 your neighbors down the street might not have a home, you know, but the bulk of everyone makes it through okay. But for Katrina, there was nothing untouched. The whole entire middle towards southern end of Plaquemines Parish was completely wiped off the face of the earth. Southern Plaquemines Parish met with a 30-something foot wall of water. Our levees broke in several different places. We were first hit and first forgotten. The media talked about us as being where the marsh slowed it down a little bit for New Orleans. We wasn't the marsh, we were 16,000 residents. And I don't think a lot of people understand that or comprehend that only a fourth of that is back in South Plaquemines Parish 5.5 years later. So it took us about 16, 17 hours to get here. And it was on October 4th, the morning of October 4th when I got here. I was stopped on the other side of the Belle Chase Tunnel and told that I couldn't enter the parish. Even though I was a resident, my husband was a resident, had proof that we were residents, and also documentation, a whole briefcase of documentation as both of us being business owners, and they refused to let us in the parish. There was a roadblock towards the northern end of the destruction, and if you didn't have a permit to enter that part of the parish, you wasn't allowed. It didn't matter if you were a resident business owner, they didn't give a care. You wasn't allowed to enter. No access to your home. They got people coming over the levees, going in our houses, taking anything that they can find to see any good pieces of our lives that we haven't even went through, and we can't get into our home. So everybody was furious. Well, finally about 11 o'clock we received our permits to get into the southern end of the parish. All the landmarks were gone. So you wasn't real sure where you were located at any given time unless you came up on a road that you recognized the cut of the road. Because literally every landmark was destroyed. Towards my house, all I could think about was just, my God, it got everybody. You know, just the overwhelming feeling of every person I knew just lost everything that they had worked their entire lives for. Things that you can't replace. Pictures, videos, albums, awards, trophies, documents, things that you can't replace. And as it got closer and closer to my house, I'd only had the home for 2 years. I worked my whole life to buy this home. 2-story, 2,800 square foot colonial, you know. Beautiful home. We put a lot of work into it, and we had paid a lot of money on that house. You know, we'd already paid it off once and then took an equity line on it to build a restaurant. As I walked up to the house, it was like I just felt this overwhelming, panicky feeling. And I just started to cry. You know, I mean, you really can't help it. I don't care how strong of a person you are. David was teary-eyed, you know, and the first thing he's grabbing is his fishing stuff. The doors imploded on the house. There was lawn furniture inside. My couch was nowhere to be found. I mean, there was just people's computers in my house. There was stuff from all over the neighborhood, everywhere. The whole neighborhood just looked like someone just stirred it all up. It was crazy. The main part that bothered me was my kids' stuff. You know, that was the main thing that affected me, I think. And then I went upstairs. Well, my daughter's room had just been redone, and she had a big 4-poster queen-size bed. It actually picked up from one wall, turned around, and floated against the door and closed it. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't know why, but when I couldn't get my daughter's bedroom door open, I panicked. Literally, I knew she wasn't in the room. She was in Florida, you know, and I don't know why, but I remember panicking. And I told David, I was like, bust it down. I didn't know the bed was up against the door. He breaks the door off the hinges and stuff when we realized the bed's up against it, so I squeeze in through the hole he's made, you know. And it was the creepiest thing. Her bed was still made with all her pillows on it and 3 Care Bears that you press the little pause and they sing when all those pretty little cute Care Bears came out. And yeah, I touched one and that's what it did. It started talking. I was gonna try to save the bed because it was solid wood, but after it had sat for so long, you know, there was just no salvaging anything at all. From the side right here, all the way up the wall there was all brick. Way down through there. And there was a big brick pillar at the bottom. That right there, that wood you see, is what's left of my dining room table. Now my kitchen's a little hard to get into. And it's all, there's my kitchen countertop and sink. Or at least I believe that one's mine. I'm pretty sure. There's the dining room. I don't know where the rest of it's at. We haven't found the pieces for that yet. Yeah, I haven't been through this house too much because every time I come in here I get physically dizzy and I feel very sick. This was my bedroom. Yep, everything's destroyed. Pretty much that's what you're looking at. This was a walkway and there was a pool here. Was past tense. This is the back of the house. That was a dining room, porch. I'm not sure whose roof this is. This is not my roof. I know that much. 2 months before Katrina, I opened my restaurant, the Barbecue House in Venice. We had put like $130,000 into the little shop. It's only a 16-by-8 building, but I sold roughly about $300,000 a year with the seafood out of it. I mean, not seafood, barbecue. I got seafood on the brain, sorry. We opened June 24th, 05. And when we went down, so July, August, 2 months, 3 days before Katrina or something like that. It was 2 months, so many days, whatever, before Katrina hit. We had just opened a restaurant. Brand new everything. David built it with his 2 hands. And I opened the door very quickly, looked inside, shut the door and said, I'm ready to leave. Let's go. That was it. I locked the door back and left. My phone rings and it's one of my real close friends and she says, Kindra, if you want to see Tammy alive, you'll go to Homa, to Charity Hospital. Tammy was my best friend. So after driving all those hours, getting a permit to get in, seeing everything that I've ever known as home completely destroyed, all my neighbors screwed, I go to Homa, and she was surrounded by her family and some of our friends, and 10 minutes later she took her last breath. So I got to deal with a lot of stuff in one day. It's still kind of tough. I miss her. That's out of everything that I lost with Katrina, that was the messed up things. Out of the dead cows hanging in the trees and my house being destroyed, it just didn't even matter to me. Everything that was lost at that point, it just didn't matter. It really didn't matter, you know? I mean, I stood there and watched my best friend take her last breath. We're gonna make to Florida. We're leaving. So I hope you've enjoyed your tour. Lord knows I haven't. So I'm out of here. I'm going back to Louisiana there. I mean Florida. That was pretty funny. Going back to Florida. Go see my youngins. Cause Lord knows I miss them. And I don't like being here. You know he's coming back. Look how clean this place is. I was happy before Katrina and Blackness. And if I had to come back and rebuild from a dirt pile to get 1 inch of that happiness back, I was coming. They could either get on the bus or stay there. David decided he was going to come over here and get things started. He bought a tent. Mullet season was the season that we would have been in. You're looking fat, I said.
Redfish.
Whoa!
He was trying to get out.
He was almost loose. There he goes. So the mullet boat was all the way on this side of the house, but come all the way around this side of the house and was flipped over with a tree on top of it. So he took a chainsaw and cut the stern of the boat out, pulled it out from underneath it, flipped it, put it on a trailer, rebuilt the back of the boat, fiberglass. It didn't even paint it. It was still wood with fiberglass over it. Found his corks hanging in a tree about 4 or 5 houses down the road. So he went and looked and found his net box underneath the tree. I mean underneath the house where the corks were hanging in the tree, like this roof that was off the house. It was just a roof. So it was flipped, the outboard was ruined. It sat in that water all that time. It ain't good. I mean, shit, the motor in this boat right here is $36,000. The motor in that one right there is about 28 grand. Yeah, we own a $60,000 vessel. There was no trees, nothing to block any wind, wide open. It was freezing. There was just no standing in a tent. So we financed a $13,500 25-foot camper trailer that we're still paying on 5.5 years later. David was actually one of the first residents to move something in here to go back to work. Not only was he staying there in a camper, my brother and a whole bunch of his friends was staying all over the property and inside the house in tents trying to block some of the wind in the broke down house that could have fell on their heads. Crazy. It was crazy times. Boat, propane tank, boat, propane tank. What you're looking at is the levee is on fire. The levee's on fire. And the fire goes on for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles. Our restaurant's down in that area, and the fire went up the road. And everything imaginable was up against that levee, including boats, gas tanks, people's furniture, a couple house trailers probably, a couple houses probably, everything imaginable. Well, our local fire department had both been ruined. So they can't get up on top of the levee to get to the damn thing. They said there was a white truck that went through yesterday, and after the white truck went through, that's when the levee caught on fire. Somebody seen him come chase me down when it first started. And I went and talked to one of our local firefighters here, and he informed me there was nothing that they could do about it, so that he would have to try to contact a helicopter to come down here and put this blaze in our parish out. Well, as you can see, nobody has came. We have a serious problem in this area, and it's called they don't care about us. Worst case scenario, it crosses the levee and starts exploding all these big tanks in between the levees. With the wind that we've had over the past few days, this is a very, very serious situation. It's about the 24th of October, I guess. I don't know what today's date is. I know it's Tuesday. This is ridiculous. They need to do something about this. People's boats, everything's burning on that levee right now. It ain't right. What I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be cleaning. This is now the insides of the bathrooms. See, it's all ripped out. The National Guardsmen don't play. This is what I've got to rip out. I gotta rip the ceiling out still. Looks like they're about to try to see what they can do about this fire. Something else just caught on fire. You see that big ball of black smoke? Heard a boom. Don't know what it is. It's getting close. See that skiff right there? It's about to burn. There is a refrigerator blocking the way. So we're gonna see how many times it takes to break these. Nope. I really don't think this video is gonna do this much justice. That's why I had to break the door. It's because I can't pick the refrigerator up. Now, Mom, I know you wanted your birds, but I think we're gonna have to buy some new birds. I'm so glad that nobody stayed down here for my family. So much for getting that boat off the levee. Boat, propane tank, boat, propane tank. Now you're talking about a 150-mile round trip to get water. Fill it up with water, bring it down here, and chain hoist it in one of the only trees we had left on our property. We had 2 trees left out of about 40. 2 trees, both oak trees. Half of them was left, half of each tree. Not the whole tree, half of 2 trees. I guess we had 1 tree. Not only that, he had to get the 55-gallon drums to go the 150-mile round trip to fill all these drums up with gas to be able to have gas on the boat to go fishing and in their trucks to go back and forth. So there was a lot of, I'm talking to bringing every single thing you need into a desolate area with nothing in it except for martial law and the Idaho National Guard. They came into my restaurant and ripped it to the walls when I was standing there by myself with a hammer and a crowbar in each hand. They come and said, step to the side, we're going to take care of this for you. Did it all the way down to getting the fire truck to come down there and wash out the inside of the building when they was done ripping it to the frame. All the equipment, and then pushed it all out to the road with a bobcat for me. Then went and moved the trailer out of my way that was broke down so we could get a FEMA trailer moved in there to move into to open the restaurant. This was all brand new equipment. Every bit of it. It's one of my countertops. That's my sink. Idaho National Guard rock. Now when they left and the other National Guard come in, they were the ones that would come around at night. Knowing David was one of the only residents here, the only one in our subdivision, and shining flashlight in the windows of the camper trailer while they were sleeping. Our local sheriff's department stopped David non-stop. They would have flashlights going out through the back of his truck and through his boat and everything. They knew us personally. But I just can't help but to remember being pulled out of a truck and searched over and over again, bodily searched by these men. Sorry, it's just not something that's going to get out of my head, being groped by these men when they all know me and have known me all of my life. Late October, they get everything down here, they start fishing again. They got to unload by themselves because we had a 5 o'clock curfew. The fish house owners had to be out of the southern end of the parish by 5 o'clock. If you was on the road, you got pulled over and searched. That's how they have to do it.
Grab another one of these drums. Ice is gonna fucking melt anyway.
So they would be right down here at the end of the dock down here. There's a little fish house. She was the only one buying fish right after Katrina. So they would have to unload them by hand in these big 4x4 vats and then lift them up with the little hand trucks. You're looking at, I don't even know how many pounds in that damn vat. Drag them into, you see the video where it's the empty half of a building where they got the plywood and they covering something up? That's their fish that they dragging in and leaving in an unsecured location with no trip ticket, no nothing, just on good faith. The Catholic Charities gave my family a home to stay in for 6 months in Holiday, Florida. I couldn't get anything done Way over here, with kids, 15 hours if you're lucky, if they don't have to pee at least 100 times on the trip. The closest I could find was Picayune, Mississippi. Little baby roaches, little brown roaches, all throughout the whole trailer. I left furniture. I packed in the yard when I left this trailer. We stayed there until January, 2 months. And I found a place in Jesuit Bend. It's about 65 miles from here, because it's a good ways up into Jesuit Bend. So I rented a trailer, and I was a little closer, so I could get more done. So I was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Sometimes I would crash out just exhausted, because we was either gutting the house or rebuilding the restaurant or cleaning property or doing whatever we could do while David wasn't fishing. I was wide open. That was before I had my back injury. So I used to work like a dude. I always have my whole life. I mean, I've been on boats most of my life. There was so many spills down here at the time, I didn't want to bring the kids into the southern end because it was a mess. It was a nightmare. I mean, some areas you would go through and I would literally grab my mask off of the floor beside me in my truck before I would hit the area and put my mask over my face, because the whole truck would fill with fumes over this 5-mile area where we had a really bad spill. The levee broke, and there's actually a pipe through the levee. And still, when they rebuilt it, they put the pipe back through the levee. What? I mean, could you say duh?
We don't need no water, let the motherfucker burn. Ooh, there we go. Now we can see it real good. Yeah, you can see a little fire truck now. It looks like a water gun spraying. One fire truck ain't gonna do nothing. It's like it's pissing it off. Tell them I'm suing them. I'm scared to sleep now. I'm afraid they'll burn us off the map in my sleep.
That's how you feel?
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever sleep right again.
Well, worse than either. So
yeah.
Y'all ready to pack up?
No, work right there at Newman Crane.
But this is close enough to be dangerous. Well, definitely traumatized, dude. Definitely.
We're rebuilding the restaurant, and I'm trying to get a FEMA trailer down here, because if I don't have a FEMA trailer down here, I can't reopen the restaurant. So April 4th, they brought me a FEMA trailer. I mean, they have given us hell about everything, whether it be an on and on the shop itself, the shed, the bathroom buildings, the FEMA trailers, the mobile home, the house in Beers. Does not matter what we do with Plaquemines Parish Permits Department, we have a problem. We're trying to rebuild down here. They should have been doing anything they could do to assist us as per their job. So I get the restaurant open on April 11th of 2006. The first day we opened, I'm standing there and I stopped counting before we opened up the little shade to the window at 170 people. And there was still people parking down the sides of the road. I don't know who told them, but maybe the smoke told them coming out the stack. I don't know, but here they come. So 2 hours, I was out of food. I built the shop and designed it with what I refer to as the 30-minute man. They have 30 minutes to leave all these companies down here, or the harbor, or whatever, mind you, wherever they're coming from, location, come to location, order, pay for, consume, and get back to work in 30 minutes.
They had all the food and water and a ton of damn supplies that nobody had ever seen. Category 5. Nightmare was a levee broke down, water's on the rise, and all their good intentions couldn't save nobody's life.
Back there's where my friend Tammy used to live. In the back behind that church back there in the trailer. We shall rise again. Shit.
Song about Katrina. That's kind of where the whole thing started. Using emergency to fuck us over.
I think that the fishing cultures of coastal Louisiana have a lot of pressures right now on them. There's the concern about, Louisiana's coastal wetlands loss. There's the storms that have come through, and because of that coastal wetlands loss, their communities are a lot more vulnerable. So in 2008, 2005, clearly we got hit by huge storms that laid waste to some of these most historic, most productive, kind of fishing communities.
What's her wish? Her family? Oh.
Everybody listen up, give me your ear.
Family hug. Oh. They just started to fix this house over here on the corner. And you can see it's got new windows and everything in it. But the house has sat in here for a really long time. They finally started tearing them all down. Some of the slabs you won't see because they're already ripped up, but you'll see like there was a house here, there was a house there, there was 2 houses back there. This was a brand new home before Katrina. They had a real nice house here that was brand new. This is one of the first houses in this subdivision. Someone purchased this house after Hurricane Katrina and fixed it. And they've been in here for a good little while now. So it's kind of nice for me to see that my street in particular, the houses that are on this street, there's only one that's still vacant. And this house here was purchased by someone. They fixed it and then put it up for sale, rented it out. The people who rented it demolished the inside. They redid it, and now the current residents are living there. I'm not sure if they purchased or rented. This house someone purchased as a tax write-off, boarded it up, put a new door system in it, put a new roof on it, and then left it there. Maybe 1% still sits not gutted, that's still here, which isn't very many because what the storm didn't take, either the parish demoed, first FEMA demoed them, then the parish, and then rode home. Really, we thought we were going to have to bulldoze it. We should have bulldozed it. But I just was like, there was a piece of it, and I was like, I don't care what we have to do, let's rebuild it. We saved a lot of money than tearing it down and building a whole brand new one. We couldn't have never afforded to build, a brand new one. There's no way. I remember staying in my father-in-law's kitchen after Katrina, and everybody was, I don't want to go back, and it's going to be too hard, and If I would have known then what I know now, that our neighborhood wasn't going to rebuild, and that our stores wasn't going to come back, and that it was going to be as difficult as it is, and that the stupid oil companies was just going to continue to spill oil on a weekly basis, I would have never came back here. But I thought I could come back and get my life back. So that's why we're back. And now we have all of these investments. You can't just walk away from every investment that you've busted your behind to make. That's the part that I love about it here, is the people that are here, and that it's my body and it's our area and this is home. But again, for my family's, just to be in a better position if I'd have known then what I know now. Hindsight's 20/20, right? Every one of these mobile homes, double wides, single wides, half trailers, camper trailers, all that is brand new. That means all the loans are brand new. Yeah. People were just getting their head above water, so to speak. July 11th of 2009, I blew 2 discs out of my back. They blew out of their area and are pressing against nerves. It goes on the right side of my body. I've had 6 injections in my spine, epidurals, where they go into the spine and pump you with cortisone and steroids while they have an x-ray machine watching the needle go in and hit where it needs to hit, the nerve. Yeah, this is pretty painful. The first 5 I went through without sedation because we have no insurance, and the shot and sedation and everything's about $780. So because it's a little less than $300, I think it's like $260 or something for just the shot. And it's really, really painful. A lot of people don't even know that about me this whole time, and despite I've had to take pain medicine and go to neurologists and all this other crap that I'm dealing with. I painted my drywall 2 weeks before the BP oil disaster in my house. I've been rebuilding this house for 5 years, over 5 years now. And we went on strike last year against the foreign imports with our shrimp. All of the taxes and everything we have to pay to be American citizens, and the foreign imports, just like they've done to the car companies, just like they've done to the steel companies, just like they've done to every company in the United States, the foreign imports are crippling the United States commercial fishing. Crippling us. So we went on strike last year and said, you know what? You want locally caught wild seafood with no preservatives and no antibiotics and all this, the prime, you're gonna have to pay for it. Cause see, where the price of living is inflated, our price of seafood is deflated because of imports.
We can't supply enough of seafood to feed our country. We know that.
We all can agree on that.
We can agree on that. What I'm saying needs to happen, whether it's a fish farm or an import, it's got to be where everyone can compete. One problem with imports and the fish farming is all of our fishery is seasonal because we're regulated. But if you own the shrimp farm, there's no closed season. Whenever you've got a crop ready, it's going to the market. And most likely you're going to try to put it on the market when we're closed, because you're going to get the best price. And what's going to happen if you put enough on the market before our opening, you'll get the good price, and then when it opens, they won't even need our shrimp. They're flooded.
2010, our price was the best it's been in a decade. So we was really looking at probably what was going to be the best year from a long time for 2010 for our shrimpers and our fishermen. And May 1st, I was planning on reopening the restaurant. So I mean, David and I would have been the house getting done, restaurant running, fishing, everything was falling into place. April 20th, boom. Yeah, my whole world just went from on track, doing what we needed to do, to upside down.
I've just been to Louisiana, the American state that's copped the worst of the spill, and what's happening there is absolutely heartbreaking. It just shows what happens when companies put profits before people and places.
My brother works part-time in the oil field, so I wasn't sure if Justin had went on any jobs or if he was still fishing or what he was doing at the time. I hadn't talked to him in a little while, and that's the first thing I did was find out where he was at. You know, he was okay, so I said, all right. So then you sit by the TV and you wait to see if the 11 men are found, and in the meantime, we're calling all of our friends to see if any of their family members are the ones that are missing. Because I don't think a lot of people understand how close people from the oil field, commercial fishing, and recreational are on the Gulf Coast. And it's because we're all related, we're all friends, we're neighbors, you know? So that's your first and foremost concern. Is it someone that I know? Do they need my support right now? And where the hell are these people that they're looking for? Why can't they find them? At that point in time, I had no idea, none, not a clue that it was gonna come anywhere near here, because we didn't even know it was leaking. A couple days passed, realized that there was some people that their family members wasn't coming back home. That was just like really hard for people around here. Then we found out that it was gushing oil, you know, and still I thought, they'll contain this, they'll close the leak, taken care of. We learned about 6 or 7 days in that there was a real good possibility that this thing, we knew it was out of control, and a real good possibility that we would be visited up close and personal by this crude sliding through the Gulf. The first thing that I thought about was, okay, we have X amount of dollars in the bank account right now. We have one or two choices. We can either pay our bills or we can reopen the restaurant. But if I reopen the restaurant, is our local government gonna say, hey, there's gray haze from the top of the trees to the ground, it's not safe here, you might want to leave? They never did say that, but we figured it out. I ended up having to evacuate my kids. All kind of stuff went down. So I ended up not reopening the restaurant for 2010 for the season. Which, by the way, I filed against BP. I thought it was a legitimate claim, and I still feel it's a legitimate claim, and I'm not going to stop with my claim for them to at least pay me for the one season that I've missed. They didn't ask me for any other paperwork, didn't respond to me in any way, but automatically sending me a letter of denial. our people can't work, but they got all these fucking people down here working.
I know it takes 4 of them to weed whack.
I know, 4 people to weed eat, and they all got jobs, and our guys can't get a job. I mean, it's just
$20 an hour.
It's unbelievable, you know.
Since the spill, the town of 460 has mushroomed to 2,000 overnight. In just 2 weeks' time, BP built its own city in Venice out of 32 acres of brush. Tents and trailers dot the landscape, housing the pilots, scientists, and captains from across the country.
It's a brotherhood out there. I worked in the oil field for many years, as I know many of you have. We have families that have people in the seafood business and in the oil business. And we've worked together for many years. And we will continue to work together once this tragedy is over. But let's give a moment of silence for those families. Thank you.
6-7 days passes, and Ricky Ott comes to our town in Venice and sits down with a small handful of commercial fishermen and their wives and proceeds to tell us things that we had never heard about Alaska, about this oil spill and some of the stuff that they dealt with and some of the things we're going to have to watch out for. And she said people started to get sick, flu-like symptoms, upper respiratory problems, seeing some skin rashes, blah, blah, blah. And that I said, well, what happened? And she proceeded to say that 1 out of 4 died.
The Supreme Court sides with Exxon. 20 years too late. We just got paid December of last year. Yeah, you can't hold on that long. This spill has the potential to be a family wrecker, because what we found is huge spikes in domestic violence, substance abuse, divorces, suicides, just because of stress.
Clayton was at the site on a standby boat when the well blew up. Clayton made the mistake of going down to Grand Isle a few weeks later, and was went out and was on the beach, and he saw the scout planes coming. The scout planes were looking for the oil. Right after the scouts planes, they sprayed dispersant. Clayton damn near died a second time. Okay.
Since then, I have this severe pain behind my right eye. My insides shake and tremble. I find myself yelling and screaming at my family and my wife, and not even knowing why or remembering even doing it until I see my wife sitting there crying.
I watch my husband die every day. And, you know, that's hard.
I don't want BP's money. I want my community.
Their life expectancy was 51 years old. My husband's 43. It's been 8 years. I have a 9 and 6-year-old. You get why I was concerned?
When we first met with BP and the Coast Guard, they flew me around in a helicopter to show me the devastation offshore. And I was told, don't worry, President Ungesser, we're going to help you clean your parish up after this is over. I asked the Coast Guard to land the chopper. I said, no, we're not going to clean it up after. We're going to prevent it from coming into the marsh. We didn't get that done too good. We tried. 2 Saturdays ago in my office, I was truly convinced the president of BP was going to step up to the plate, do the right thing, and fund that project. I was horribly wrong. I was sure the Coast Guard was going to demand they paid for that project and start moving those dredges to location while we were waiting on the permit. That was, again, horribly wrong. Colonel Lee canceled his meetings in Baton Rouge and drove down, spent Saturday and Sunday at my office working on this plan. When he came out Monday a week ago to the airport, Governor General and I put our hand out. We thought we were going to get a permit. I saw a different Colonel Lee. Something up above, and I don't mean God, something up above in Washington got involved in that permit, and we didn't get it issued. I've seen BP and the Coast Guard point the finger at each other for the last 2 weeks like a couple 7th graders.
Cross my heart, hope to die, 6,000 needles in my eye.
But you said earlier, we'll be here to make sure y'all are taken care of, and I appreciate where you're coming from, but I think what I'm hearing here is the people don't feel taken care of now.
We have enough evidence now to know that the dispersants that were distributed in the air and in the water do cause health hazards. And I really think it's an affront to the American people that you actually think you can get away with this.
The EPA requires extensive toxicity testing to be done on these dispersants, and they come from the National Contingency Plan product list.
So the dispersants, they are a trade-off, but I think Captain Stanton characterized the current trade-off well. We all know these are trade-offs. So it's the best of bad situation.
Trade-off.
The lesser of the two evils certainly is to disperse the oil far out at sea.
Don't we have something less toxic than this that'll work on its own?
I don't think so.
It is a trade-off. It is always a trade-off. We'd all like not to be here at all and have to answer any of these questions and address the issue.
The dispersant so-called trade-off, that is the oil industry's frame of the issue. The real question should be, how do we clean up oil spills the best way possible, not trade-off environment, deep water, near shore.
We have a product, many products, that we have used, has been used around the world. Aqua and Cap is on your approved list. Not only will it encapsulate the hydrocarbons, making them 100% available for landfill material. Not only will they do that, it will also encapsulate the correct dispersants that they are spraying as well, sir. We have Dr. David Spees, who is still on the Exxon Valdez Trust, world-renowned marine toxicologist. We have 9,000 committed members from the Audubon Society, volunteers that are willing to come here and help. We have the availability, the resources, the boats, the manpower, and the training to assist with this project. I personally have sent this to no less than 100 or maybe 150, but no less than 100 BP people, from Mr. Doug Settles on down. I've not even had so much as a courtesy call back. Why does it take so long to evaluate a product that's already on your approval list? And the second part of that is to the EPA. We furnished the EPA letter dated in 2006 along with our package. Why has it taken you so long for something you've already approved?
I can't give you a good answer. In their generosity, the Dutch government and the Ministry of Transportation and Waterworks offered immediate assistance with an offer of 4 Cossack rigid sweeping arms, which are known to be worldwide the most efficient oil cleaning equipment available. Since April 29th, I have been working tirelessly, as has my company in Holland, 24 hours a day, contacting British Petroleum and presenting them with this official offer from a foreign government to help these people that you see here lined up that are really suffering. And I've heard one thing back from British Petroleum for over 3.5 weeks, and that is we are evaluating this equipment. Please be patient. Now, as an engineer, I can tell you the word evaluating is used when you don't know if something works. Now, if something has been proven to work for 20 years, why isn't BP taking any action?
My life's not a trade-off. I got a heart that beats just like yours. I got feelings. And you upset me today by telling me that my health, because BP was a trade-off to make dollars. Somebody's lining y'all's pocketbooks, because this is a conspiracy. And you people can sit here and hide this all y'all want in your life. But when we all start dropping dead from the Florida state line to Grand Isle, Louisiana, wow.
BP has been here for more than 20 years. We've been in the Gulf producing oil and gas. We have additional assets there. So long-term means long-term, which means that after we've cleaned up the oil through the responsibility, we'll still be here.
So until the ecosystem is fully recovered to where we can make 100% of our income? Yes or no?
Again, EPA and others will tell us when that has been accomplished. Long-term for me...
No, our trip tickets will tell you when that's been accomplished, as far as if we can make 100% of our income. That has nothing to do with the federal government.
You know, I do live in Alaska, and I'm trying to decide what I'm doing this fall. And what I see the need to do is some of the strategic planning that you're talking about.
I think that's really important, and like Derek was working on Bridge to Gulf, once we have that solid structure of our community leaders together here, to where everybody's on the same page, power comes in numbers and knowledge. You know, we don't want to end up with a dead fishery, contaminated land, a bag of bills, and a court date.
My name is Alan Carpenter. I represent a company named ESIS, who's contracted with BP to service the communities affected by the oil spill in reference to claims.
If anyone has gas receipts or things like that they need reimbursed or whatever, we've got some gas cards left.
I've got 2 left, 2 $25 gas cards left.
Sometimes it's really easy to go off on a tangent. It's really easy because we're pissed off at VU, we're pissed off at Obama, pissed off sometimes at ourselves, you know, whatever. But the federal government is trying to make your communities deal with this on a parish by parish and a state by state basis, which is why our communities' asses are being kicked. Being unified is important because when you become unified, you realize, oh, John Wathen has already done this. Oh, Byron Oncolade has already done that.
The press has done everything they can do to keep us on the front line for a certain amount of time. Now it's time to flip the script.
Kindra Arnesen.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not usually a speech giver, so you guys bear with me. I'll try to make this as painless as possible. To explain to you where I live, I am indeed the one on the very end. I am at point 5 on Highway 23 in South Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana. The first day we were introduced to anyone from BP, they came into our building and said, BP does business right. Yeah, can you believe that? BP does business right, and we're here to take care of everything, folks. Well, 61 days later, that's a joke. They gave me, of all people, security clearance to go into the base of operations meetings in Venice, Louisiana, 8 a.m., open door invitation to sit like a fly on the wall. Can you believe it? It's really going on. They also gave me security clearance to go into the Homa Incident Command Post, which is over the entire region of Louisiana. I've been in Coast Guard planes all the way out to the site itself, helicopters, boat rides. I have been everywhere anybody could ever want to go to really get an inside look as to what's going on. Now I want to start by telling you guys that I am not at all impressed. For the past week I've heard in the ops meeting, we need to cut costs. Yes, that is what they've said, that they need to cut costs. I almost came out of my chair the first time I heard it, but I'm trying to stay where I am because someone has to be on the inside overlooking and seeing as to what's going on the ground. Every time an official is headed anywhere near here, they get a heads up. All assets are deployed. into the hardest hit areas. The official comes in, flies over, good job fellas, pats them on the back. When the official disappears out of the hardest hit area, so does 75 to 80% of the response. It's happening every day. I'm watching it, I'm seeing it. I don't agree with it. Anyone in this room's not going to agree with it, and our great nation's not going to agree with it. We are expendable to these people. We do not matter. Now, I'm going to get off that, and I'm sorry I talk in circles, but that's the coon ass in me. If y'all can follow me, then let me know. In order to obtain a respirator for our responders, now this isn't just commercial fishermen. I'm talking about Coast Guard members, all responders, people off the street, everybody involved. Number one, they have to fill out an ocean questionnaire. Number two, they have to have a physical evaluation by a medical professional. But EPA is doing air monitoring. Everything's okay, it's great. Yeah, imagine that. At any rate, there is in fact some act somewhere in OSHA's law that says that volunteers have a right to wear a volunteer respirator, but they can't wear a volunteer respirator because if they're not properly trained, BP's rules are they have to be properly trained in order to wear a respirator. Now BP said that they will provide the training and they will provide the respirator, but everything's okay. So they don't need to be trained and they don't need a respirator. And as far as the right to wear volunteer respiration, guess what? If you don't follow BP's rules, you don't have a job. My children have broke out in 4 rashes. My child broke out in a rash the first time. I took her to Florida for 4 days. It magically cleared up. I brought her back. She broke out again. I left. She cleared up. Now today, she's broke out again. I left and went to Baton Rouge, and as I drove back home, clearing the throat, the stickiness, the upper respiratory irritation. You know, the bottom line here is, this morning I contacted Miss Marla Cooper, who is District 9 Councilwoman for Plaquemines Parish. And Miss Marla has 3 grandchildren in our area, and she's just a great grandparent, a good mom, and I told her, Miss Marla, we have got to call for an evacuation of our area. We cannot allow our citizens to sit like we're out in the middle of this stuff's on all 3 sides of my home. I walk outside and there's a haze. They're called bad air days. Folks, stay inside, put your air conditioner on recirculation. Everything's just fine. Well, why do we need to lock ourselves up in our house? You really think that's going to cut it? I know that my parish only makes up 2% of Louisiana's population, but does that make my people expendable? This is unacceptable. They are slowly poisoning every person that I've ever been close to in my entire life, and I'm standing here saying no more. Our marsh now is being used as a boom, an absorbent boom, a big giant sponge. It's on both sides of us. It will fill up, it is filling up constantly. We have heavy, heavy crude penetrating our marsh all over the place right now as we speak. They deploy and then they pull them back in when a politician comes in. This is not acceptable. They're not cleaning it up. They're covering it up. We're barely into this. This could go on for years and years, and they're already cutting costs, cutting corners, and taking shortcuts is why we're all sitting in this room today. Enough is enough. Now, as far as EPA, OSHA, NOAA, BP, and the federal government, that every one of us in collaboration with each other, that comes from someone at the top of NOAA. That's the kind of people I've been talking to. That came from someone at the top of NOAA. That they're all in collaboration with BP. Are we that dependent upon these banks to just roll over and let them poison our world and our people in it? This is unacceptable. A week after this started, they want to say nothing's going on, nothing's dying. A week after this started, I traveled 70 miles east of the original site. There was these shells floating all over the top of the water, hundreds of thousands of them. They were empty because they were dead. I've never seen a shell float in my life. Dead, a week after. 4 weeks ago, when the oil was trajected to hit the west side of our peninsula, I was so mad after I went down to Paso Lucha and seen what wasn't being done there that I got in my boat, my time, and I took a trip. I also had Fox National News on my boat. I traveled from Red Pass 10 miles to Four Bayous, about 10 miles the east side of Grand Island. Now the oil was projected to hit that side of the peninsula that day. 30 miles. I did not run into one respond boat. I did not run into one piece of boom, hard or soft. 150 feet of sandbags on a 30-mile stretch of shoreline. This is unacceptable. So I decided on the way back, well, let me just go out from the coast a little bit and see what's going on. I ran into oil 3/4 of a mile off our coast. Not sheen, crude. You know what? Everybody's saying a media blackout, a media blackout. Yes, ma'am, there is a media blackout. Sydney, Australia, 60 Minutes came over and they did a real nice piece.
Kindra Arnesen has become a crusader, the Erin Brockovich of Venice, Louisiana. A straight-talking Southerner, not afraid to stand up to big oil and big government.
Everything is dying. It's either dying or dead. They can't fix this.
But it's a way of life that's been ruined.
It is a way of life that's been ruined. They've killed a food source. Great, the Gulf produces the best tasting seafood you'll ever eat.
Used to.
Well, used to, yeah. You hit the nail on the head. Used to, once upon a time. I guess it'll be something in history.
There's no one who wants this thing over more than I do, and I'd like my life back.
Me too, me too. I'd love my life back. My restaurant remains closed because I don't have time for my business right now. Because I have to take care of Tony Hayward's business because he can't take care of it himself.
Präsident Obama hat den Fischern derweil Verstärkung versprochen im Kampf gegen das. Auch die Fischerfamilie Arnesen bangt um ihre
It's not
Existenz.
just about the livelihood.
Es geht nicht
It's
nur um
about
unseren
life
Lebensunterhalt,
in
sondern um
general.
unser Leben insgesamt.
Her husband David has been forced to stop fishing and is now transporting oiled birds for the state of Louisiana.
Well, I've only been on 2 weeks. 2 weeks I've been hauling supplies and old pelicans and stuff back over there. They're set up in Fort Jackson to really take care of them. And I guess we were lucky because at least we're making a paycheck. If it wasn't for that, we'd be sitting around not making any money. We smell it every day. It was strong in Venice this morning. I've already went to the doctor. Every time I run out of medicine, I have to go back. I cough so bad. My little girl, the spots, she broke out with them, looks like chicken pox.
Other fishermen are still mired in paperwork and red tape, intimidated by the process.
The first day that BP came in and sat our fishermen into the gym, they filled out a one-sheet entry form. And I volunteered that day to go around and help pick up the entry forms because the guy just really seemed overwhelmed.
That's when Kindra says she realized many fishermen couldn't fill out the form or dissect the contracts BP gave them.
Our fishermen just signed them and handed them over to BP. They didn't know what they were reading. This is a Visa card. So instead of just going to Walmart, you can use the Visa, and it's $50.
The card was welcomed in Tanya Neal's home.
Thank you.
As Neal wrote a thank you note to kind strangers, she told Kindra her fisherman husband has not worked one day since the spill.
They took his job from him. It's not like he quit a job and started working this oil spill like a lot of people have been. They took it from him and now he can't work and we're supposed to just sit back and wait. You're on the list. Wait. Well, tell them to wait.
I felt compelled to step up to the plate. You know, nobody seemed to really be doing anything. I mean, they were just kind of like sheep following the lion. Sir, I have a question for you. It has come to our attention that BP intends to deduct what monies it pays to our fishermen from the monies BP has committed to the loss of claims.
I had no idea. You'll have to ask BP that.
I have, in fact, and I've sent this to BP and asked for a response in writing. I'll give each one of you here a copy of this. I've asked for it over and over again. Our fishermen are out there cleaning up toxic waste in the Gulf of Mexico in the heat in dire situations, and they have in fact turned around and took one individual's VOO check and deducted it from their claim check and gave them a check for $281. $281. Yeah, thank you so much for your attention. Every man that I've ever known, loved, respected, every father, breadwinner's gonna die because of what they're doing. I went to them and I begged them to put respirators on our people, and they will not. Thank you. Now their stocks are plummeting. Aw, you want a towel to cry on? Maybe you should use the one that's soaked with my tears. You need to explain to them that it's like a vacation, David. I don't know, maybe you should open up a computer or a fucking book and read something that's going on, and then you would have to agree with me on this. We'll just have to work it out on the flip side. This is the kind of problems this kind of stuff causes between married people. I'm not real happy about the decision, but I feel better now knowing that my kids aren't breathing toxic fumes every day. We're the parents. Normally, we have the plan. How we're gonna take care of our kids, how we're gonna pay our bills, what we're gonna do. Now we have no plan. Flying by the seat of our pants. BP won't put anything in writing at this point today, so we don't know what they're gonna do with us. Now we've become, instead of only God's children, we've become BP's children. How does 208 million gallons of oil dispersed disappear overnight? Well, I'm gonna tell you how. My brother worked for the Vessel of Opportunity program for, I'd say, probably around about 4-month mark. And I finally got him to talk to me last week, and I sat him down and I asked him, because they were on the decons, 125 boats decon, where they would go hunt the oil down and find it, and then they would start deploying booms to clean it up. And I asked him, I said, tell me exactly what happened every time that you found oil. What would they do? Stand down, move to another grid. So what happened to the oil? Well, we don't know. So what happened the next place you found oil? Stand down, return to another grid. I said, well, what about the first week when you found oil? He said, Kendra, the first day I went out, I've had 87 bags on my boat of boom. They had the capability, spent the money on the boats, the boom, the soft boom, the products. They spent the money to actually clean this up, but they didn't clean it up. It wasn't about recovering the oil. It was about sinking it and covering it up. This can happen anywhere in the United States. I don't care if you're from New York City, if you're from California. It doesn't matter where you are, how special or untouchable you think you are. It can happen anywhere. And the saddest part about it is, before the people in the community actually know what's hit them, the corporation has come through, hit them, and took off.
Does oil come under the booms? You bet, it does. That's a natural occurrence. When you have a current in the water of more than a mile an hour, any oil will come under a boom, and the phenomenon is called entrainment.
Where it manages to stay off the bank, a little 2-foot chop you would let your kids frolic in will send all the oil either over or under it. All the oil. On the shore, in the reeds, on the beach, in the nests, oil. So what? It's not going to make CNN send a single correspondent to booming school, is it? Now the Coast Guard, they know booming. They know what fucking proper fucking booming looks like. Coast Guard Commandant Admiral Thad Allen should be fired. Today. Now. This minute. Before he can give another press conference echoing what BP said not 5 minutes before him.
This is 18-inch harbor boom, protection boom that we're laying out. It's got a flotation system on the top, a skirt that goes down under the water to keep the oil from going under it. Last I heard, for the Venice area alone, it was 700,000 foot of boom, and that's just for Venice alone. That doesn't include all the other areas.
We all need work, so we gotta have something to do, but it seems like it's just politics. You know, they got us out here doing something just to look good.
Back on subject here, booming school. Not only is oil spill booming a large industry in the USA, teaching oil spill booming is a large industry in the USA. Most of BP's production and pipeline employees in the USA have attended at least one booming school. Many have attended 2 or 3. Most oil and gas production employees in the USA have attended booming school. Some of us have attended really good, really extensive week or 2-week booming schools. BP's production employees have attended the best booming schools. I know this. I've seen them there. BP's drilling folks have mostly not attended booming school. They're sometimes sent to a booming school, but they fuck off in the bar and their bosses sign off on that being okay. Because for drilling hands, booming is for pussies. Generally, boom is long and bright orange or yellow. It is not bright orange or yellow so you can see it, dear fledgling boomer, but so governors, senators, presidents, and the media can see it. It has a round, floaty part that floats and a flat skirt that sinks. A rule. The floaty part never floats high enough and the skirt never rides low enough. Some oil will always go over the boom and some will always go under it. Our task is to minimize both. We do that by proper booming. Here, this picture teaches you almost 100% of what you'll learn in booming school about proper booming. Boom is not meant to contain or catch oil. Boom is meant to divert oil. Boom must always be at an angle to the prevailing wind, wave action, or surface current. Boom, at this angle, must always be layered in a overlap sort of way with another string of boom. Boom must always divert oil to a catch basin or other container from where it can be removed from the area.
And word is that they're possibly spraying dispersants. Is that true?
I get the complaints. I'm still getting the complaints that the dispersant is being sprayed, and I turn it into the feds, and they're saying they're investigating it, but no one will ever say we're doing something to stop it.
The hazmat-suited ground crew readies a Vietnam-era C-130 cargo plane on the runway. Pumping its 3,200-gallon tank on board, full of a toxic chemical solution commonly called dispersant.
Currently, we're located at 2907 and 8806, so we're located right about in here.
It's a slick 30 miles long and between 200 and 1,300 feet wide.
We had oil spotted earlier today right here, but there's a lot of oil all throughout this whole region. Should be straight up our nose. They'll probably find it.
If they ain't gonna test the seafood, we can at least test the water and the air.
They say that they testing the seafood, they're not finding anything in it. Well,
if they don't have a test for Corexit on the fucking market, how the fuck are they testing the seafood? That's bullshit.
What the hell is the fish and the birds dying from that don't even have oil on them?
You seen the birds on the side of the road?
Huh?
You seen birds all over the place? That ain't got no oil on them, dead. I've been seeing seagulls.
Right. What's killing them?
Yeah, you notice that they picking them birds up?
Yeah, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, buddy. I went back to take photos and them birds is gone.
The government knew this. The government knew how toxic all of these things were going to be, and they also knew how toxic Corexit was going to be, and I'll tell you why and how they know. Because I've got Organic Solvent Neurotoxicity by NIOSH. It says here that these effects include disorders characterized by reversible subjective symptoms, fatigability, irritability, and memory impairment, sustained changes in personality or mood, emotional instability, and diminished impulse control and motivation, and impaired intellectual function, decreased concentration ability, memory, and learning ability. Now, what we've learned about these things is that they do bioaccumulate into your system. So this being reversed thing, it depends on how much our children are breathing in.
The message I want you guys to know is we take this very seriously, and we'll continue to do that. We have plans in place, and we monitor this dispersant use. We have criteria that we look at daily to determine if we need to make some decisions. And so we'll continue to do that, and we'll continue to work with the state and federal trustees to make the best decisions we can in this situation.
I know that EPA and NOAA have been testing and following the plume, and they're finding it.
Oh, this is a mother load right here. Yeah.
There were two dispersants that were used, 9500 and 9527 of Corexit. 1.84 million gallons of Corexit 9500 and 9527 were applied to the BP crude oil spill. The human health associated with the dispersants. You look down this list and you see short-term headaches, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and then you see long-term, the damage to the blood cells. People were talking today about internal bleeding as a result of damage to the red blood cells. Cardiovascular problems. There are two up here that we haven't seen yet. Other than those two, we have seen all of these health impacts that are associated with the dispersant in the people that were workers and were people that lived along the coast.
Corexit, after the Amoco Cadiz spill, where dispersant was not used, the shoreline recovered in 5 years. 20 years after, the shoreline had not recovered where dispersant was used. You all need to do some investigating yourself and not rely on whoever's feeding you this bunch of BS that's being echoed here.
Why are we still spraying dispersant that BP don't even allow in their own country? Y'all are killing this industry. If y'all keep spraying this dispersant, we may not ever come back. This same dispersant was used in Alaska. Their fisheries height come back in 20 years. The Heroine has never come back. Their $300,000 permits ain't worth nothing. They are worth nothing. So we have a long-term effect here as fishermen. We've been doing this all our lives. For us to keep poisoning in the Gulf, don't experiment in our Gulf. Go back to BP's homeland and spray it over there. Don't spray it in ours. Let us fight this one time with booms and salt pans, something that will soak it up, because it will not soak up.
I don't think you have enough room.
The Commandant of the Coast Guard respectfully disagrees with your viewpoint.
They demanded BP to quit using the Corexit because of this toxicity, and you're going to stand up here and tell us that it's all right when your boss asked them, and then 48 hours later, BP's response is, we're not going to stop using Corexit. Where in heck does it ever come from in the United States that corporate levels dictate to the government what they're going to do and not going to do?
And first of all, let me go back to the whole approved thing, and the gentleman was right. They're not approved, if you will, by EPA. EPA is very careful in that kind of wording, and the reason for that is it's very easy for individuals to go around and say something is approved by the agency that's not approved. So the agency is very careful in how they essentially...
So that they're not responsible?
No, that's
well,
not...
I mean, they're using it regardless, and I don't want to keep going on.
Sure,
I mean, we kind of need to go on with the meeting and get everything out in the open, what we need to get. But with them putting a disclaimer on it, I mean, so the EPA is still not backing BP to put out this particular disbursement.
I'm sorry. Are you asking...
I'm asking if the EPA is backing BP on pouring this dispersant, spraying this dispersant, however you want to put it, into our Gulf. Does the EPA approve at this point? 3 or 4 days ago, the EPA asked and provided a list of alternative dispersants. And BP decided, oh no, we're just going to go ahead and use these dispersants anyway. So at this point today, right now, you and me, right here, like nobody else is here, does the EPA now, differently from before, approve this particular dispersant?
The EPA's position is the same as before. And
just yes or no?
The EPA's position is the same as before. And that
so they still don't approve the dispersant?
We are working to find the least toxic available effective material that can do that. And so that's our position. And we're working with the federal...
You're bouncing around the question, and you've been doing this for about the past 30 minutes. It's a simple yes or no answer. Does the EPA approve the current dispersant that's being put into the Gulf? Simple yes or no.
Well, obviously it's... Hang on. Let me finish.
Are you really serious that you cannot answer this question?
No, I'm going to answer.
Yes or no?
Yes, it's going into
so the
Gulf
EPA now
right
approves the dispersant that BP's using?
Yes, it's right now the material
so
going in.
Late May to mid-August, late August, every day for between lunch to 3 o'clock, we have a torrential downpour here in Plaquemines. If it's clear in the morning, and then you're watching your radar Doppler, and then around 12, 1 o'clock, you see all the green and everything over the Gulf. Where does the water come from? From evaporation, and then it builds. Naturally, it's in the Gulf. That's why we decided to do the rainwater test, is because we knew, and see, May 13th up here, I told Captain Stanton, and face-to-face, I explained to him, Rosina was at that meeting, and that was the first time I ever heard her use the word cultural genocide. And I grew great respect for this lady, but at any rate, I asked him, well, it builds over the Gulf and then comes in and dumps down on top of us. How far out are y'all spraying? And he was 30 miles out, and I was real upset. And I didn't understand all the dynamics of everything that was going on then. Now we've learned that they've sprayed closer to inshore, and it really doesn't matter how far, how close they've sprayed. They've sprayed 2 million gallons of this stuff, and they've dumped how many millions of gallons of oil out here. So as the rain clouds build, yes, it's coming in and dumping chemicals on us here.
The oysters we sampled were not visibly oiled. They looked good. They looked like oysters you would eat. And the oysters we collected and analyzed, there was up to 8,000 to 12,000 milligrams per kilogram, part per million oil range organics. And again, these were not visibly oiled oysters. Had the alkylated PAHs, foranthine, naphthalene, and the others you see here. Known and suspected to cause cancer. Then we looked at blue crabs, up to 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams per kilogram oil range organics, and then alkylated PAHs. And I want you to remember these oil range organic numbers when I talk to you about what the Food and Drug Administration has done in just a minute. We did shrimp, 8,000 milligrams per kilogram oil range organic, and the alkylated PAHs. And we did mussel, almost 7,000 milligrams per kilogram oil range organics, and alkylated PAHs. And finfish, up to 21,000 oil range organics. Remember, none of these samples looked visibly oiled. So Dr. Jane Lubchenco, who is the administrator of NOAA, on September 15, had a press conference. And she stated over and over and over again at that press conference, seafood is free of contamination in Louisiana. Standing behind her at the press conference was the seafood industry of Louisiana. So I looked at the data that NOAA and the other federal agencies had accumulated. 43% of the oyster sample contained polynuclear aromatic hydrocarbons. 24% of all the seafood sampled through August 26 contained PAHs. Dr. Lubchenco should have stated that the seafood contained contaminants below the level of concern developed by the FDA for the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. So let's look at those levels by FDA. They began testing seafood with the sensory or smell tests. Remember all those pictures on TV? And if they smell bad, then they did the analysis. They established levels of concern for the PAHs in shrimp, crabs, oysters, and finfish. The levels of concern were elevated above what normal FDA and EPA levels of concern for seafood. Here's the list. Remember those were on the previous slides. Next. So the FDA stated when they established that list and those levels of concern, we have developed specific PAH seafood levels of concern for the unprecedented Deepwater Horizon oil spill event and will not necessarily be applicable after all fisheries are reopened for safe harvest. The FDA levels of concern were based on consumption rates that were way below what people on the Gulf Coast consume. 4 jumbo shrimp per week. How many of you eat 4 jumbo shrimp at a serving? Raise your hand if you only eat 4 or less. How many of you eat more than 4 when you sit down to eat shrimp? Per week, remember.
This started about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, and I started having abdominal pain. And it was after, I noticed it was after I would get home from walking the beach and doing my pictures and my videos. And one night I just had pain. It felt like somebody was just taking a knife and sticking it in and pulling it out and sticking it in and pulling it out. and twisting it sometimes in between. And I went into the bathroom and I looked in the mirror, and that's when I noticed that my stomach was all, red. Like, I wouldn't call it a rash. I would call it, like bleeding under the skin. The only time that it gets worse is after I have been out on the beach. That's the only thing I can attribute to.
The first physical impacts that I realized were extreme headaches, nausea, dizziness, blurred vision, confusion, or so-called brain fog. My short-term memory was impaired. My sinuses would immediately swell. My eyes would burn, as did the back of my throat, as if I had been maced as I approached the waterline. Soon to follow were the skin lesions, excessive dehydration, blistering of my feet if they got wet, diarrhea with mucus, lethargy, intense muscle atrophy and pain, and bleeding from the ears. It has then progressed to internal bleeding and bruising, loss of muscle mass and coordination, kidney and bladder infections, and more.
We got fishermen that are pitting against each other right now. Yeah. You can guys say, man, look, that guy went crabbing the other day and came back with crab, and most of them, a lot of them was dead, a lot of them was infected. I mean, just yesterday.
Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, I've been all over the coast, I know everybody in the business. And none of them want to say that the shrimp aren't no good. None of them want to say that, okay? Because that's what we do for a living. That's what we feed the rest of the country. And it's genocide to the rest of the country with them packaging shrimp from Louisiana when it's not even been tested.
So I don't think the seafood's safe. I won't eat it, I won't feed it to my family, and I won't sell it. So we need a better system as far as actually testing the seafood.
The industry is dead forever. They say anything came from Louisiana. So how do we begin to organize around that?
Adequate testing has not been done. What we're asking for is for them to stop the use of dispersants. Number one, we keep hearing that they haven't used them from July 19th, but what our fishermen are seeing that are out there is something else entirely. We still keep seeing that white foam that they've been spraying from the very beginning. Every time we see a pool of oil, the next morning we see all this white foam that looks just like the dispersants.
We've been doing blood testing for volatile solvents. The BP crude and the dispersant have volatile solvents in them. Air sampling along the coast, independent air sampling along the coast, is picking up the volatile solvents that have also been detected in the blood of individuals that have been tested. So it's in the crude, it's in the dispersant, it's in the air, and it's in the people.
The Coast Guard did nothing to prevent the water coming in from the Gulf of Mexico and block it from coming in our bays. We have 7 back bays where we have dolphins and most of us residents live. So the test results came back, they were extremely high. And as everyone has said today, this is the same story up and down the coast. There is no qualified medical health. If you do find someone that will finally admit that it's, it has something to do with the oil, very shortly thereafter, once the word gets out, all of a sudden the doctor doesn't want to work with you anymore. And I find that very strange. I don't understand how a company that's not even incorporated in the United States gets away with all this.
I keep picturing the dead wildlife that I have seen on the beach with their eyes hemorrhaged and gasping for air, and they cannot bring air into their lungs. And I see this happening to us. I see this happening to people now.
I got my blood work done 10 times higher than the 95th percentile of styrene. I didn't work on no crew. I haven't even seen a tar ball.
The doctors and hospitals are weeding out anyone who might be thinking that they are suffering toxicity, which relates to the dispersants or exposure to crude oil. It seems that any admission of such by the doctor will result in them being brought up on possible legal proceedings or a rash of questions.
My daughter is 29 years old, and she had a miscarriage in October.
And when she talked with the doctor, we live in Gulfport, Mississippi, the doctor said that never had she seen so many concentrated numbers of miscarriages over such a short period of time. I can't tell you how many antibiotics they've put me on, and I still can't breathe.
When I left in September for 3 months, my eyes got so bad contracting to light, I couldn't even see the light from my cell phone.
I'm Ginger Lambert. My husband is blind, and his eyesight was perfect July 28th. On August 4th, he was slapped in the face with some of the boom.
Her 6-year-old child was brought to Biloxi, Mississippi to go swimming back in June. And within 4 days was broken out in blisters on her ankles, feet, between her toes, from about here on her arm to here on her arm was all blisters, blisters under her nose, around her mouth. This child today still has these blisters. That was in June of 2010. She is on breathing treatments all day, every day.
We also have the University of Mississippi and Tulane University, which is coming up with oil and crab larvae. Now this is oil and dispersive mix, so we are proving that it is in the food chain, and we do not know if it will bioaccumulate. We do not know what is really in the water. NOAA, EPA, does know. The Coast Guard does know. Why are these results not available to the public? It's an all-clear sign that the food's great, water's fine, come on down, and 14 million people are exposed to poisons, and you really don't seem to care.
Hundreds of people are showing elevated levels of these chemicals in their blood.
This trade-off logic has failed. Oil and dispersant have entered the food chain. Hydrocarbons have been detected in crab larvae. A Louisiana wildlife and fisheries biologists expressed their concern recently.
Larry, we'll take all your demands and we'll give them due reading and take care of them.
Can you guarantee the well test has integrity? Can you guarantee?
According to the Bucket Brigade's review of EPA's air quality analysis testing techniques, they are not testing for volatile organic compounds.
It probably still doesn't make you happy and it doesn't make you satisfied, and we're doing the best we can. And we'll do better. I promise you we'll do better.
There are no excuses. Clearly we have not done enough. We're going to work hard. We did a bad job of communicating.
You're absolutely right.
What you see before you are the members of the Gulf Coast Ecosystem Restoration Task Force, and you'll note that we have representatives from the 5 states that make up this great region, as well as what I called this morning on the news an alphabet soup of federal agencies. But please understand, from the White House to the Department of Justice to the resource agencies like NOAA and U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Department of Interior, Agriculture, Transportation, here to focus the efforts of governments on restoring the Gulf Coast. This task force is your task force. The President's executive order that established the task force you see before you said that this should be from the ground up.
From the bottom up? From the bottom up, from the ground up, stakeholder involvement. Nothing happens without the stakeholders.
Department of Homeland Security, stakeholder input, listening sessions, 4 key stakeholder groups, stakeholders across the Gulf Coast, listening session schedule.
Engaging our stakeholders, call the 800 number.
The stakeholder calls to peer update, to ask questions. Stakeholders calls to reach out to stakeholders. The first listening session, how we can make sure that their voices were heard.
For the most part, the task force adhered to hear public comment, try not to respond.
How much money did it cost to fly all these people to New Orleans who aren't even in this room right now?
There is a transparency question, I believe, on how y'all use these comments. There is a process laid out about how you gather them, and that's encouraging. But it would be nice to also see a companion exhibit on how you're going to use these comments.
We watched as all of these companies have come in, and the fishermen, or even our recreational fishermen, a lot of our locals are not considered for the employment opportunity.
But we keep coming to these things and we keep speaking and talking, but nothing ever, we feel like nothing ever gets put to action.
Why have public comment and public engagement if you're not going to take what we say and incorporate it?
We keep hearing the word bottom up.
And we've been allowed 1 minute each in this so-called bottom-up process.
I heard somebody talk about top-down and bottom-up regulation a little earlier.
A large panel of government interests, and to some degree backed by business interests.
You have someone from the FDA here saying that he's never seen more rigorous testing of seafood. Well, the reality is the allowable levels of hydrocarbons for this disaster was raised, meaning that seafood is allowed to be more contaminated than previously to this disaster. So that was a flat-out lie.
Formalized citizen involvement process.
If this is real, a bottom-up process.
All this talk about bottom up is absurd when you only can have the 1 minute to speak.
This is a sham process or it isn't. Either you allow us to discuss the health effects or you delegitimize your own process.
We welcome any input that you have.
Even if y'all are the most honest in the world, it's not going to come across that way unless the people are involved and our concerns are being addressed.
It's the people who want to protect their natural resources. They want to be able to go out with their shrimp boat and go get some shrimp and not have Uncle Sam looking over their shoulder. They want to keep their culture. They want to do what their grandfathers did. They want their habitats to remain. They want their lifestyle. They're not imposing on anyone else. They take what they need. On the other side,
us Cajuns know how to do business. We usually do it on a handshake, but we don't trust you guys. I wanted it right now.
First of all, let me say that, that is a problem if you don't trust us because, we need to have your trust. We need to do whatever it takes to make that happen.
No problem. Put it in writing. Put it in writing.
Put it in writing. That's what we want. Put it in writing what your long term is going to be. And I also want our federal government to put it in writing to back that promise from BP that's in writing to make them follow through with what they put that's in writing.
This area in particular, you got to understand where you are. You've had 30 years of promises. You've had 30 years of being told, we'll fix it, we're going to devise a plan. If you want people to back your plan, if you want people to believe in what you're doing, you better be transparent about it. You better be forthright for it. Put the comments online. Why are you afraid of it?
Sir, I'm not. I'm telling you they are going online.
No, put the comments of the people online.
That's what
Not
I'm
just the
sure.
presenters you've handpicked. Put the comments of the people online.
Not the live comments.
We don't have a trust in BP, and we're also, we have a basic mistrust in the government at this point.
I do want to emphasize to you that we all understand that you have been given no authority and no money.
No funding, no authorization.
One of the things that I've been seeing a lot is a disconnect between government and the people, the disparity between independent testing of seafood, air, water, and what y'all, FDA, EPA, whatever is providing.
This handout that's here from the CDC is misleading at best to say that the levels that were determined are not a threat to human health is simply not accurate. We're burying it as fast as we can.
The level of distrust in this room alone, you could cut the tension with a knife.
When are we getting our money?
This country can put an invading army in a foreign country in 6 days, feed it, move it, fight with it. I think what we don't have is the will.
This is a political process. You guys are all here for political goodwill, as we're hearing right now. There's not a lot of trust. We put people in toxic FEMA trailers.
We're seeing it after Hurricane Katrina. We're seeing it after BP. Corporations are getting richer and richer. Yeah. And the people that are affected are getting poorer and poorer. I hope then that this president that I love and trust and really continue to support will change the process. So far I see the same process that I've seen from Bush and all the rest of it.
We've all lived through the false and fraudulent cheerleading about how great the recovery was going, so much to the point that it actually contributed to the nation's Katrina fatigue.
Help get the media here. Where is any local media? All this that's being said, there's not one piece of footage that's going to go on the 6 o'clock or the freaking 10 o'clock news tonight.
I'm a Katrina survivor. I also went through BP. And I found it absolutely incredulous to think at some point in my life that I could not have a good faith belief that somehow my federal government that's charged with the absolute responsibility and mandated to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public, in my opinion, has not done so.
I don't know if you realize, but our little MMS office here in Metairie is the #2 generator of income to the federal treasury after the Internal Revenue Service.
And they're not going to say, oh, sorry you guys, we poisoned 41 million people. Oh, sorry. They've been lying to us and now they're laughing at us.
I thank God every day that I evacuated my children from Venice for 2 months during the height of the spill. That was the hardest fight I've ever had to fight with my husband, who's my best friend, since we've been married. We just celebrated 10 years. But I made the tough decision and I sent him out. And then I brought him back after they said they had stopped spraying. So now here we are in Venice again.
Somebody got to get up there and do something.
This community raised me. So they are my family, my extended family. And I've always been taught by my extended family to fight for what I believe in, to stand up for what's right, and to try to do the right thing.
Welcome to America. The American dream has become an illusion. The best one ever pulled off. We got frickin' Houdini in the White House. It's time for change. This country's went too far whenever people sit back and allow for their neighbors and loved ones to be poisoned, all for the sake of the mighty dollar. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good afternoon and keep chugging at it.
Thank you.
Hey, Kindra, stay up here a minute. I want to make sure that you get this. This is for Coastal Heritage Society of Louisiana. This is also a Clean Air and Water Award because Coastal Heritage Society has done a great job. They collected toys. They collected food. They're just excellent people, all volunteers. No one is paid. And I just want to make sure that they get recognized too.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you very much. I was under this impression that we had this government. I was raised American proud. You follow me? True patriot. American, proud to be American. I lived in the best country in the world, the United States of America. And then what happened? BP happened. And as this oil started coming in and I started to speak out, people started to get sick, things started happening. It was like the snowball effect. But I figured, well, if I say enough and I say it loud enough, then the politicians will hear us. We'll get through the mainstream media, we'll get through all of this, and they're there to take care of us. Well, I'm here to tell you that today I'm a very changed person from 6 months ago. Because today I know that the government that I thought existed does not exist for any state. We have a corporate government. These people are bought and paid for. The United States has been broke off piece by piece and sold off to corporations. Without this type of movement across the entire United States, we will not make a change. But for those who want to change, who want that American pride and privilege back, who want that sense of security, now's the time.
One Gulf, one fishery, one people, one future.
And if I'm lucky, I could have a son. I'll take him hunting like his daddy done. Get him working on a shrimping boat up and down the Gulf of Mexico. Living dead out on a deep sea rig, doing what it is they had to live, all bleeding from a gaping hole up and down the Gulf of Mexico.
Out of distrust, we go over the agencies.
So I think all of the people who stayed here for 12 hours to try to make you people understand something, I think we deserve something from this. And that, like the gentleman said, let's see something change.
That baby dolphin, that baby dolphin, that baby dolphin.